I'm Jennifer Garrett. I'm the Assistant Deputy Secretary at the Department of Safety and Professional Services. Welcome to our Firefighter Youth Training Grant question and answer session. I'm just going to do a quick technical overview and then turn things over to our hosts. First of all, we're going to have participants submit questions through the chat, and all participants will be muted through the course of the meeting. We will be pulling questions out of the chat, and I will be helping to facilitate some of those if we notice repeat questions or there's a lot of them, so to help manage with our hosts. Our hosts will run through the program. We have some special guests today, and then after we get through all of our speakers, we'll have time for questions at the end, again through the chat, and then we'll wrap up promptly at 10. So if you have any concerns, please direct those to me in the chat, and I can work with Kim in the background. If you're on a phone and somehow get unmuted, *6 to mute yourself, and otherwise I will hand things over to April Hammond and Brad Johnson to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Just give me a second. I just lost my agenda, so I'm going to try to pull that up again. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to introduce who we have here. I'm Brad Johnson. I'm the Section Chief of the Fire Prevention and Firefighter Health and Safety Programs. I've been involved with the fire service for 23 years in volunteer and combination fire department. And yeah, I've been part of this program now for about 12 years. So, April.
My name is April. I am one of the fire prevention coordinators with DSPS. I have been with the agency for 15 years. The majority of my focus has been with the firefighter safety and health program. I serve as an assistant chief of a 100% volunteer fire department in Dane County. And we currently have 43 members, but about 4 years ago, that number was as low as 28. So we know and we understand the ebbs and flows of volunteer recruitment and retention. We operate on a modest budget, and to ensure that we maintain staffing, we utilize incentive programs, we perform recruitment drives, and we celebrate our staff's accomplishments. But most importantly, we engage our staff through effective and appropriate training. So a couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to be in the room when Secretary Harris' cogs were initially starting to turn, and he was laying the groundwork for the Youth Firefighter Training Grant. I was really, and I still am, I'm extremely proud and excited. And I'm grateful for the work that he and Secretary Krim have done to ensure that this became a reality and that the fire service has access to these funds. So they're making efforts to increase recruitment initiatives for youth throughout Wisconsin. So it's an honor to be involved with the Secretary's office since the inception of this grant. So also, I think it's really important that we give Secretary Harris an opportunity here if he wants to introduce himself and explain the program. I don't know if he wants that opportunity real quick.
Sure. Thank you, April. I certainly want to recognize Brad and April for all their work. Also want to call out a couple other staff on the line. We have Jennifer Garrett, our Assistant Deputy Secretary, who has also been involved in this process since the beginning. We also have Lily Kelly, who is our budget manager, super important in terms of the grant, like the actual implementation and the grant review process, very critical to that piece. Before we jumped on this call, we were all kind of talking and working to get set up. And I think what you've seen here at the top is that we have staff on our team who are innately involved in the fire service, both in their DSPS lives and also on the other side of the fence in their semi-personal lives, and have been so for many years. They carry with them, I think, a passion. We were talking a lot about the importance of community safety and how each of us has kids, and when you get that call or you hear that siren, you're immediately concerned about your neighbors, about your friends, and ultimately about your own family. and their safety, and the importance of making sure that our fire service is well resourced and well staffed throughout the state is readily apparent, and directly contributes to the safety of firefighters as they do that work and serve our community. And I think that that's one of the reasons why we as an agency were so concerned with that issue. I always have to give a shout out to Chief Garrison. I don't know if he's joined us today, but Chief Garrison was really part of the inspiration for moving this grant forward. Also want to recognize Western Technical College, who was one of our inaugural grantees, and they've certainly taken the idea and they've run with it in a great way. So I appreciate their willingness to join us today and talk about some of their work. I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but for those of you who know state government, our budget is due on Thursday. So a lot of work to do there. But that being said, I will share that we do anticipate doubling the annual grant cap for the program. So in this current biennium, so the next grant announcement that's coming out will be for a total of $50,000 of funds, but headed into the next biennium, we're doubling that to $100,000 per year. We've noted the success. We in the first round, we got a lot of really quality applicants. I think what you'll hear today is a discussion about not just the program as it exists, but sort of the iteration that's occurring to refine the process and certainly give more guidance and create even better submittals for funds in subsequent rounds. But I really appreciate you all being here today. As I said, incredibly important work, and we are just overjoyed with the opportunity to support it in this small way. So with that, I'll turn it back over to April.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Secretary. Yep. Sorry, Brad.
Well, okay, yeah, I'll take it from here, but thank you for that, Secretary. I'd like to start things off and talk a little bit about the program and the need for it. Last week, I was running through some numbers, some of our fire data that we had, and in 2004, we had 17,000 volunteer firefighters in the state. Today, we've got less than half of that number. We've got a little over 8,000 volunteer firefighters in the state, and the number of part-time and full-time firefighters has remained relatively stable over that period as well. Since I've been in my position here, and that was right around 2010, 2011, we've lost 60 fire departments in the state over that period, and most of those are volunteer departments. I realize there's some consolidation going on with the department that I was on. We ended up being absorbed by and merging with a full-time fire department. But you know, there's really, staffing is one of the critical needs of these departments. Everybody that we talked to, from Secretary Krim and Secretary Harith, and staff with fire departments, staffing is always one of the critical concerns, and this is even filtering up into some full-time departments, into in some areas of the state where volunteer numbers are low, and these full-time departments are recruiting from the volunteers in the area, and they're struggling to find enough people to apply for their full-time positions. So this is a critical need, and obviously I'm preaching to the choir here to the people that are on this call, but these are the volunteer departments provide a critical need. They're the only, you know, they're 911 in these rural communities, and you know, if nobody's responding, you know, if they don't answer the call, if we don't have enough staff, you know, these calls are going to go unanswered, or there's going to be serious delays in time to in response times. So in response to this challenge, the Secretary's office, and I commend both Secretary Harith and Secretary Krim, who were both active in doing this. DSPS was able to budget $100,000 in grants We had round one earlier this spring, which consisted of $50,000. We had 3 recipients. Of that, we had 15 applications and requesting a total of $185,000. And we had the city of Oconto, Western Technical College, and Winneconne Fire Departments that were recipients of those. The scoring overall was relatively close of those applications. So hopefully, we're able to provide a few pointers here that'll help those on the call apply for a grant. Round 2, which is what we're in right now, opened up last Friday and closes on October 7th, I believe. That will also be for $50,000 in total, and each grant that is applied for is a minimum of $500 up to $25,000 per grant. So from here, I would like to go, Kim, can you go to our website? I'd like to show everyone what our where all of our forms and all of our great information is. But on our website here, you can go off of the dsps.wi.gov site. You can click on programs to find it, go to A to Z program list. And if you just scroll down, you're going to find the firefighter training grant. And that's how you get to that page. Thank you, Kim. So the first form, and this is where you're going to find all of the details as far as what's eligible, what isn't eligible, the actual application, and our scoring sheet to help you frame your grant. All of that information is going to be here. So Kim, can you click on the first one? I'd like to show you the grant availability announcement and just show a few key items here. What the grant is this is a collaboration between volunteer fire departments, tech schools, and high schools to provide a training program to recruit and train high school juniors and seniors for the role of serving in the fire service. And we're hoping one of the aims is to receive high school and college credit for this program itself. Scroll down to the bottom. Obviously there's some information here. I'm not going to hit all of it, but I'd like to hit the key area: eligibility. Who's eligible to apply for a grant? First off, you need to be a Wisconsin DSPS recognized volunteer or combination fire department in good standing, a high school and technical college. One of the things that we noted in the last application is that you do need a collaboration between all of those entities. We did notice that some of our former applications did not have letters or collaborative effort with all of these entities, and we were unable to award that grant. So just keep that in mind. We're looking for all 3 parties to work together to come up with this program. The lead participation must have at least 1 fire department, 1 high school, and 1 tech school as grant partners, but we certainly encourage a collaboration of more if possible, more fire departments and more high schools if that's possible in that area. Okay, if we can go to page, well, I think it's going to be page 4 here, Kim. The grant schedule, going down to, scroll down, there we go. Just wanted to point out again, certain dates here that are important. The application period began on Friday, and the deadline is going to be October 7th. So that'll give us 4 full weeks of an application period. And we do expect an announcement on the award winners by the end of October. Lily or April, do you have any questions or anything else that you would like to add before we move on to the next form? Hearing none, let's move
Wait,
to, oh, go ahead.
sorry, I had a little unmute, my finger didn't click that unmute. On this form, I'd like to look at it through the budget lens and just say that we do recognize that different fire departments have, different resources available to them to manage and submit funds. But pay careful attention to the fact that this is a reimbursement grant. So one of the things is how we submit our requests for reimbursement. So in order to get funding, you would have to, let's say if it was some turnout year, you need to be able to have the resources to purchase that and then request reimbursement. So we do not advance the funds to you. So it's something to think about as you're applying for the grant, that you have availability of funds to make that initial purchase. The other thing is, from a budget standpoint, the budget is really key here, is to make sure that you're tying the justification to the budget. So as you're developing your budget, that you're really thinking, and it's on page 2, just a little bit above here. If you scroll up a tiny bit, it's showing differently on this screen, but it's budget line items table and budget detail. It says that you need to have 1, the basis for how you got to the amount, and 2, a justification for the need for the component. Oh, there it is, right there at the top. You'll see number 2. And I think one of the hardest things is for a grant applicant is, what the purpose of that is. Make sure you explain it to us. It may seem self-evident, but if you're requesting something, make sure that the link to the program is very clear. I'll leave it at that.
I've got 2 quick things. Lily Kelly, who just explained that to you online just now, is our budget director. So if you're wondering, wow, she knows a lot about what she's talking about, that's Lily Kelly. She's our budget director. Also, the one that's scrolling through the documents for you right now is Kimberly Wood. She's our program assistant supervisor. She is doing all of our IT coordination for this meeting. So just wanted to provide you a quick introduction of who's also assisting us on this meeting.
Okay, thanks for that. And as long as we're on this, oh, am I on mute? No, I'm not. Okay. As long as we're on this form, we may as well finish it. So can we, I do want to draw attention to the chart that's at the bottom of here, and we do have an example of eligible grant items and ineligible items. I'm not going to go through them right here, but I'll just say that all of these details are here. So typically these are items that you would look at for a training program for new recruits. And one of the things that we saw in previous applications is high school students are typically not built. They don't have the same years of drinking beer like this guy and eating too much, but properly fitting, ensuring that your new recruits for this have properly fitting PPE, and that's a big item that we saw, and we know that uses up is usually a bulk of many applications and uses up that eligible amounts pretty quickly, but did want to make sure. And having, of course, having properly fitting gear makes people feel like they're valued, part of the program, and feels good about being safe and that sort of thing. So anything else that the other hosts would like to say about this form before moving on?
I think that this is really helpful to kind of give examples of the kinds of things that we are looking for in the grant and what I would look for in the budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Okay.
it's not exhaustive. So there might be something that's not maybe on this list. So not exhaustive.
Thanks for that, April. And again, if you do have a unique need or something that is not identified there, don't be afraid to make the case for it. Just be able to justify it, and we can certainly entertain that as part of the entire application. So Kimberly, can we go to the grant application? That should be the number 2 document there. This is the application that you're going to need to fill out if you are applying for a grant. Just be aware that you're going to fill out everything here, but the email address, dspsgrants@wi.gov, that email address is in the first paragraph. That's where the applications are going to be sent. So send that there. We'll distribute that to our statewide team, who's going to be part of the scoring process. So I won't go through everything here, but just make sure that everything on the form, let's scroll through it a little bit, but the first page is just going to be our primary leads from a budget perspective, project perspective, and the fiscal end of things, so that they're identified on that end. And then everything else should be pretty much, all of the boxes you're just going to fill in. If you do need to attach additional documentation because it's not, you don't have enough room here, please feel free to do that. I do want to draw your attention to the end of the form where there's a eligibility checklist. And that should be on page 4 of 7. There we go. So again, just looking at the eligibility end of things, and again, as I mentioned during the program overview, this is one aspect that some of the applications in round 1 fell off of. They didn't have all their ducks lined up in a row, but it's critical for us to know that all of the partners are on board. So you will need it can be a simple letter, one sentence, from each of these entities, but we do need to document participation from a fire department, a high school, and a technical school. And let me see here. At the end of the form, and it pretty much just indicates at the end, page 8 of, well, it's actually going to be 8 of 10. I need to fix our page numberings here. There's an application checklist, so it would be page 8 down at the bottom here. Just make sure that all of those things are submitted. The easiest way for us to eliminate applications is to have incomplete applications. That makes the scoring process a lot easier. So please make sure that that things are filled out completely, and that we have everything on the form that's needed there. Anything else from and then of course on the last page there's a actual certification that everything there is correct, and you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. Anything else from Lillian or April on the application.
Hey, I can jump in. I'm have to say that we have a resource put together for you, which is, we don't need to flip to it, but you'll see on the website that there's attachment A. And this is a guide for filling out your budgets and your detail for this. So take this as kind of a helpful resource for how to put together a budget. And there is some guidance about each of the specific areas of your application and how you might want to think about the items that you're putting in there. Again, as April said, this isn't comprehensive. We put examples there just to enable the guidance to be provided. But if you're, you have something that you're putting in that isn't a part of that example, be sure that you find a way to document the budget for that in a understandable way and provide the justification. I'll turn this over to April.
I don't have much else to add, other than I would agree with Lily on that. And I don't have much else to add with Brad's overview of any of those documents either.
Okay. And just, we don't have to pull up the last document, but the grant evaluation rubric spreadsheet is going to be another good guide for you. You'll get to see what the scoring in each category and specific questions that we're going to be looking for in each category. So use that as a guide. Read through the materials, and again, several of them are up there for your guidance. So looking at the time here, I'd like to move on here and allow one of the recipients of round one, that would be Western Technical College with and the Onalaska Fire Department, Chief Troy Goody and Blake Deber and Tyler. Boy, I might hack up your name here, but Ludeking or Ludking with the technical school, provide us an overview of their application, their program, and some of the things that they're doing. So Chief Goody.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. My name is Troy Goody. I'm the fire chief with the City of Onalaska Fire Department. I have been a member of this department for 33 years. I started as a volunteer, and in 1993 was hired as the first full-time firefighter and inspector for the city. As the past, about 3 years ago, I was interim chief, and I had met with Western Technical College, kind of informal, talking about the issues we're having with recruitment and retention. And that kind of got the ball rolling. Once I was appointed as the fire chief for the City of Onalaska, I decided to step out of the box a little bit and take a chance and approach the mayor with this idea of having our focus change from the adults and the busy families to having a youth fire academy at our fire station. She fully supported it. And then we just did a little bit of legwork, had some meetings, and our first year of our program ended last May. We had 7, I believe, that graduated from the program. 4 of them went into the Western Technical College Associate's Degree program, and 2 others joined fire departments. I think my numbers are pretty close on that. Blake can always correct me. But it's been really exciting having the students here. Initially, the vision was as they're coming in at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, they're walking past the fire trucks. It's quiet. They come up into our training room. They do their training. They have some hands-on sometimes on the floor. And as they're leaving, they're interacting with the full-time firefighters. It just felt like it was something that was going to be exciting and hopefully get more firefighters out there to fill these voids and get that pool built up. So with that, if anybody has any questions, certainly reach out to me about our program, about our training room or anything like that. And good luck to everybody. I think it's well worth the work that you'll put into it.
Thank you, Chief. We'll have a time at the end of the call here for questions and answers, but appreciate that. I'll turn things over now to Blake and Tyler. Tyler, I'll let you pronounce your own last name here. I shouldn't have done that, so leave it up to you. I don't know who's going to go first.
Go ahead, Blake. And Brad, you had it nailed. It's Luda King, so you're good to
Okay.
go, and I wasn't worried. So I'll let Blake go first.
Well, I think, Tyler, why don't you open it up, is that you're an important part, and then I can do the why we did what we did with the grant.
All right, sounds good, Blake. Yeah. As Chief Goody had said, we had met and talked about this, and the original conversation was, how do we do EMT, right? And then we had a bigger picture of, why don't we do both? And so really our program, the in-depth idea of the program is that in the fall semester we run a Fire Protection 1 course. The students then are in the Fire Cert 1 course in completion of that. And then in the spring we switch to EMR, and Western's a little unique in that we run an EMT Part 1 course and an EMT Part 2 course, and tied to the EMT Part 1 course is the EMR certificate. So really our students are able to actually earn and take advantage of both of those. From our standpoint though, my area specifically works with in between Western, the community, and then obviously the high schools. So it was really, it's one thing to be able to have this idea on your end, on the Western end, but also wanting to make sure that there's an interest in the school districts as well, right? Because you can have the water, but if you don't have the horses to lead them to, there's nothing there, right? And so that was one thing that we really wanted to make sure that there was an interest. So we built the schedules, we built everything in around what was successful for the school districts. And that's really the important part. And that's how you're going to get the students interested in this, is by developing and building the course for them. So we run at 7:30 to 9, Monday through Thursday. We sprinkle in a few Saturdays. There's usually 1 or 2 Saturdays each month, because obviously it's very hands-on intensive. And that's how we did it. And just as Troy said, we had 9 students enroll in the first year. We had 7 complete. We had a couple different issues, obviously COVID related, etc. And then this year we're up to 13 students. So we currently have 13 students. What's also very important is that we have 3 females in the program this year. So we're really proud and to be able to see that there's some non-traditional occupations and some students that are interested in that, on the female side of things. So with that, obviously with growth comes additional issues. We had a really good cohort the first year, and obviously we're hopeful that this cohort is going to be just as successful. But those are important parts. Is it's not just creating the idea of it on the back end, or either at your fire department or in your technical college, but you really want to make sure that there's buy-in from the school districts, because they're the feeders, right? They're the ones that are going to be providing the students for this program. So it's worked out well. There's been a ton of interest from the program. We're really excited to see where it goes. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Blake to correct anything that I missaid.
No, you didn't say anything. Forgive me, I'm probably going to go off camera because I'm having some problems with my bandwidth. So if you lose me, don't worry about it. My voice will keep going through. What Tyler said is we had 5 high schools sign on as part of this collaboration. And it's kind of ironic. I shouldn't say ironic. It's funny that we actually had 5 say, yeah, we want to do this, but we had 3 additional high schools send students. They heard about it and they wanted to be involved, and they sent their students to us. There is a perception this is Onalaska Fire and Onalaska School District only and Western. It is actually across our region. We have students from Independence in this class. We have students from Boston, Sparta, Pullman, Onalaska, and La Crosse. So it's a broad base. We had, I think, a total of 8 fire departments sign up. They said, yeah, we support this wholeheartedly. So we're still working with that. In terms of how we came about the grant, we are fortunate enough that we had 1 year under our belt. I had some previous experience in Iowa over this, or doing the same thing in Iowa. So when the funds the grant became available, we knew that our biggest headache has been the bunker gear cost. We had a couple fire departments donate their older 2216 SCBAs to us. So that wasn't a real big, there was no cost there, other than the bottles were getting a little bit old. So when we identified the areas that we wanted funding, it was for rental gear of PPE. That was the most inexpensive way to get students into bunker gear. And then the other part of it was we identified that we needed more spare bottles for our SCBAs that were going to be new or newer, so that we could take our older SCBAs and make them last longer. So those are the two areas we really highlighted in our funding request, and submitted the request. We have right now this year since we have such a large cohort, we actually have 3 instructors working it, 1 during the classroom phase. And then whenever we're doing hands-on or we're doing Saturdays, we'll bring in 2 extra certified certified fire instructor 1s to help our main instructor doing all the hands-on portion. For our Saturdays, we bring them out to Sparta and use the facilities out here and our equipment out here, as well as during the week. The students usually get about 45 minutes of classroom, and then the rest of the time it's doing hands-on repetition at Onalaska using their facilities. We do have a trailer that we will be bringing in online that'll have basically Firefighter 1 equipment and training props on it that will be at the Onalaska Fire Department. So whenever they're doing their hands-on there, they have the equipment. We're not taking it off of their trucks and taking them out of service. I'll stop there.
Yeah, I'm also one of the things that we recognize is that $25,000 doesn't last long when you're renting or purchasing equipment for the fire service. You know, but we had hoped with this grant program that it would really be planting a seed and it would expand from there. Can you, Blake or Tyler, tell us a little bit about how this grant helped you secure additional funding that wasn't available before? It's my understanding that there was additional funds that came from the college system.
Yeah, what we did was, since the idea worked, we actually went after a core industries grant through WTCS, basically saying, listen, we know that we have a problem in our volunteer fire departments, and due to the makeup of our 10 counties, we said, listen, we need help to take this on the road, improve what we can offer. And in terms of that way, we were very heavy on the instructor cost as well as the equipment cost. So in the core grant we submitted to the state, it was very similar to our Emt Core Grant that we did 3 years ago. It's basically enabled us to get money for brand new bunker gear, 15 sets, a lot of those pieces of equipment that we have to move around, ladders, axes, hoses, nozzles. So it was, I think we got a tick, thermal imaging camera. We have a couple, one fire prop that we use for teaching fire behavior. So by having this program already in place with the assistance that we got through DSPS, it bought us that time to put in that core grant. And with the background that we had, somehow by whatever, we ended up with the grant. So we have enough money in that grant for instructors that we will be running it twice a year, once in the fall and then once during the summer. And we also added in there a provision for veterans. So we can bring in, trying to recruit veterans to join or take the training. Hopefully then they will become part of the local volunteer fire departments. We are targeting non-traditional employees or possible employees to be taking the course. So that's how we use this grant to sort of buffer and get us a carryover until the other grant came through.
Brad, I just want to jump in before you say anything further. We have 20 minutes left, so
Okay.
we probably should open for questions soon.
Yep. So thank you, Chief Goody, Tyler, and Blake for that example. It's a phenomenal example of what this grant can help you with, and hopefully we can get a number of these types of programs around the state started and hopefully take off from there. So as Assistant Deputy Secretary Garrett mentioned, we'll open it up now for questions and answers. Type your question in the chat below. Those will be filtered, and then we'll take your questions now.
So while we're waiting for questions, April, can you tell us a little bit more about what your department did to increase your ranks? You said a couple of years ago you were at 28 or so, and you've increased that by quite a bit.
Yeah, so well, we were lucky enough to get a SAFER grant, which helped with, so that's the federal grant, the SAFER grant. And so we were able to use those funds to get an LED sign, which we put up in front of our building. So it's constantly flashing. We need firefighters, apply here. So we regularly have people stepping in and filling out applications because they see the sign out front to apply. And so we get applications. We also, so with that SAFER grant, we were able to once a year send out flyers to every resident in the community saying, we're looking for members, apply, this is what we're looking for. If you're interested, apply. And so every resident that lives in the community knows that we're a volunteer department, that we're a 100% volunteer department, and we're always looking for members. So they're aware that the department is always looking for somebody, and that we provide education, and we'll send them to the tech school for free to receive their firefighting education. And so so that's a way that we're providing education to the community, that we're a volunteer department, and that they'll get free education in the fire service by just advertising, by providing some advertising on who we are and what we do. Another way is through social media, always presenting it through social media and posting, putting out posts, because social media, there are people on social media all the time these days. It's a great way to advertise that you're a volunteer department and that you're looking for help by putting out posts, recruitment posts. Incentive programs are good. And then, but also when you have a member that has achieved either by passing their entry level or passing their firefighter 1 or firefighter 2 or their driver operator, or any type of achievement that they've had, advertise, like celebrate them, post it on the social media site and say, look, we've had members that have accomplished these great things. Or if you have that sign, celebrate them. They did it, yay, because that's exciting for them. And it makes them feel good about themselves. And so that's really good for retention. And it builds people up and makes them feel welcome and makes them want to stay. So celebrating accomplishments is a really good method for retention. But incentive programs are good too.
Can I jump in, because we're starting to get some questions?
Yeah.
Should departments or applicants attach vendor quotes to the application if they plan to use the majority of funds for turnout gear? And some of this might be for Lily. And also, do we offer any in-kind cost estimates in the budget summary? So if Lily wants to hop in.
Hi, yes, those are great questions. Thank you. So the first is that would be very practical to attach the quote. That is good support for your estimate. And so yes, by all means, go ahead for the turnout gear, or if you see other things that you're planning to request, that would be a good strategy. Second question again, Jen.
Do we let's see, do we include any in-kind cost estimates in the budget summary in detail? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but you might.
No.
Where you want to make a note of that is in describing your program and the overall support for the program. So if one of your partners, for example, is providing some type of gear or classroom space or transportation or facilities, as it says in the application, in-kind funding is not required, but by showing what the partners are planning to commit, that strengthens and enhances your application.
Yep.
So
So
by all means.
Yeah. So, and would you encourage other, you kind of in the narrative section explaining other ways that partners are supporting, like April said, for example, if they plan to use social media or other advertising to promote, or even though those don't have hard costs to them, do you think those add value to the application?
I can speak on the budget side that those things are sometimes considered intangible, and those are investments that the organization is making. So for example, April described the use of social media, and someone from her department has to spend the time to draft and make those posts. And even though they're not being paid for it, it is indirect support of the program. So that those sorts of things should be considered. And the other people here have seen applications where those materials are described, and feel free, Brad or April, to jump in with to add to this.
Yeah, I think, as Lily, I don't have a lot more to add other than what Lily has mentioned, but, it helps describe your commitment to the grant and the program itself. And, when we ask ourselves, hey, here's an application that's really well thought out. They've thought of everything, and we believe it's going to be a successful program. It's going to help in the overall scoring and of the application to include those sorts of things, even though you're not applying for reimbursement on those. It certainly strengthens it. So.
Okay, we currently don't have any other questions right now. While we're waiting, are there any other points that Brad or April or Lily that you want to make based on the conversation so far?
Yeah, I did receive one question directly from one of the attendees here, and it indicates, please identify how this recording will be shared. Will that be posted on that that website?
Yes, we'll post it on the website, and we can consider other options as well, but at a minimum, we'll post it there.
Yep. I was also going to add that there's one other document. April did the majority of the groundwork on it and work on it, but we hope to have a Q&A posted on that as well. It's been drafted, and we're just making sure that all of the answers are consistent before posting that. So we should have that up shortly.
Yep, and I want to clarify something that I have said. That's something that we have done within our department, but it is not a part of this grant or an eligible type item. And I have mentioned a method for recruitment and retention would be an incentive program, but that's not an eligible type item, I believe, that is a part of this grant, because we're focusing on the training aspect in youth. And so make sure you're looking at eligible items, because we're looking at how to recruit and retain. So look at that list, look at what's eligible, and think about how you can apply the eligible items in your application. So even though I've mentioned things that we've done on my own department to increase from 28 to 43, that might not be what you can apply for. I'm just throwing out other ideas in other ways outside of what's worked for my department beyond this grant application. So if you're going to apply for this grant, make sure you're doing it within the scope of the grant.
Okay. Are there any other questions out there?
The only thing that I would add, I just wanted to, we're talking about the monetary side of things. When you look at the ineligible opportunity that we noticed on our grant application, the monetary awards for course completion. But what we did know is that on the high school side of things, through DPI, students who successfully complete both the Fire Cert 1 course and the EMR course are actually eligible for $500 from the state back that complete this course as well. So that's important that you don't have to put that part in on for the students, because they're actually eligible to earn $500 back from the state per certification. And that's also on top of school districts who are able to then claim either of those certifications within tech incentive dollars. So then the school district themselves actually earns money back for doing this as well. So really it becomes a win-win for everybody. The school district, even though there's a cost for them to take the course, they earn money back for that. And the students, when you tell them that they have an opportunity to earn up to $1,000, their eyes get really big as well. So just keep that in mind, right? That it says it's not ineligible, or that it is an ineligible option. But there are opportunities on the back end for the students through the DPI to be able to earn some of those funding. And that's what we use as a promotional piece as well.
Thank you for bringing that up. That definitely adds to the full range of funding that is available to support fire services. And this definitely, this grant supplements but does not supplant those options.
We have 8 minutes left in the call. If there are any other questions, now would be the time to ask those.
And if everyone could check your chat, I know that some people have been sending their questions directly to individuals. So if you can just, if you haven't looked at it yet, just take a peek to see if there's a question waiting.
And one other thing I would like to add while folks are looking at their chats is think about your, as gosh, I think it was Tyler that mentioned it. No, actually it was Blake that mentioned non-traditional students. There is that is part of the application and scoring process. Many fire departments have found it essential to reach out to people that traditionally would not have joined the fire service that are now filling those critical roles and serving their communities in a way like this. So think about reaching out to them. One of the items that some communities have looked at is, for example, female athletes who, are already used to a team environment, like that camaraderie and, relationships that they feel in working as part of a team. Reaching out in those areas or targeting, students in those areas can really help fill these classrooms, if you will, fill the program. So think about that as you develop your programs and your application. Okay, I think we can conclude. I don't know if we need to stick on for another 6 minutes if there are no other questions.
Give everybody one more minute, Brad, but
Okay.
and while we do that, I just want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank Brad and April and Lily for their work on the program. I want to thank Tyler, Blake, and Chief Goody for presenting on their program. I thought that was very insightful and had a lot of valuable information and at least helps me kind of connect what we're doing with what they're doing. So I appreciate the time everybody has spent with us this morning, and I encourage anyone who is close to having something that they could apply for a grant for to submit a grant application. We really do want to support fire departments in the state, and recruitment and retention is we recognize is critical. So we're proud to offer this program, and we want to allocate every dollar available to us to your departments to support the work you're doing. All right, well, my chat's pretty quiet, so I'll give it back to you, Brad and April, to wrap up.
Well, I think you've done an awesome job of wrapping it up yourself, Assistant Deputy Secretary. Your remarks thanking everybody for being part of this. We look forward to seeing your applications. I do encourage you to apply. It sounds like from some of the calls that I've received that some of the wheels are already turning, and we've had some good interest here by having quite a few attendees on the call. So again, thank you for our guests, and thank you everybody for joining us. April or Lily, anything else that you want to say to wrap up? Seeing nothing from April. Feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. You can also send your questions to that email address that's at the top of the application. Send your questions there. We'll add that to the Q&A. So we like to have those documented, and good luck everybody. And thank you for joining us. Have a good day. We'll close it from here. Thank you.
Take care.
So Kim, I forgot to thank you, but thank you for the work that you did to help us prepare for this and for running the meeting in the background.